Hello, and welcome back, everybody, to the Warp Tour webinar program. I'm Emma from the Small Business Saturday team, and today we are learning about what it takes to franchise your business. I have got another Emma with me today. I've got Emma Sweet with me, who is the founder of Ace Places Playing Cards and is on the franchising journey herself. So she has lots of tips and a bit of a story to share with you. Do get involved in the chat and say hello. Let us know where you're from and where you are in the country. Maybe tell us what the weather's like. We always love to hear these things. If you have got some questions, pop them into the Q&A section at the bottom, and I will ask Emma those at the end of the session. This webinar will be recorded, so if you miss anything, don't worry, you can catch up on it in your own time. If you would like to turn on some captions as well, you can do so on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. Finally, a big thank you to BT for partnering with us once again on this program and making this webinar possible. I think that's probably enough from me, Emma. So I will hand over to you and I will see you at the end for some questions.
Lovely, thanks very much. Hi everyone, I'm going to be really honest and say I have never hosted a webinar before. I've sat in on plenty of them. So yes, be gentle with me. And yeah, if you do want to ask any questions, we will answer them all at the end because I will sort of ramble on a bit and tell you what I've learned so far. And yeah, then hopefully answer any questions at the end and see where we go. But I just want to state for the record, I don't have all the answers on franchising at the moment. But then, you know, let's be honest, who does? But what I would like to say is that I feel like I've come a long way. So just to give you a bit of background really of where it all started. This slide I love. I was actually looking for a photo of my business and I found this one. And I thought I'll start with this one because this is the lovely Alison and Louise from the Henley WI who knitted me a postbox topper that essentially launched my business. This was March 2023, so just over 18 months ago now. And this was to launch without seeing what my business is. This slide makes no sense, but this was right in the centre of Henley-on-Thames. And it was just to draw attention to the fact that Henley was about to get its own playing cards that week. So this is my business. Essentially, they are playing cards that are dedicated to Henley. So each one is something different to do. So you can see the Ace of Spades there is Henley Festival. And if you don't know what the Henley Festival is, you scan the QR code that's on the bottom of the pack, or you go to the website. It tells you all about each card. So each of the 54 cards is something different to do. And as I say, I launched these in March 2023. And essentially, they're a marketing tool for those in the pack. And then they're a sales tool that people can then sell the packs of cards and make money from them. So not everybody in the pack sells the cards, but then everyone that sells the cards isn't in the pack. So it sort of works both ways. But to date, I think I've sold about 7,500 cards. 7,500 packs, sorry. I really need to double check those figures because I feel like I've been saying that for a while. But yeah, that was March. I was still working full time at this point as well. So I did all of the work for this at the weekends and the evenings. And it was then as I was launching the Marlowe cards and sort of working on them that I decided to quit my full-time job. So I've been doing this now 13 months, just being completely self-employed, which I'm sure many of you are completely self-employed as well. Like, it's a journey. It's got its highs, it's got its lows, and mainly I'd say more highs than lows, which is good. And yeah, today I think the Marlowe pack sold about 6,000. It was actually Tom Kerridge sort of changed the course of events, where when he decided to sponsor all 4 aces for his 4 restaurants in Marlowe, that's when I really knew that this was going to be an exciting town, an exciting pack, because Henley's very much known for its regatta, and that's all people really know it for if you don't live there. And Marlowe's really only known for Tom Kerridge if you don't live there. So, but as someone who lives just outside of both towns, I know that there's so much more going on in these towns. So that's why I decided that's my business idea. Anyway, I'm not here to plug that. I just thought I'd give you some context, because it was then in March of this year that my mentor suggested, oh, you know, why don't you look at franchising? And being honest, I didn't know anything about franchising other than McDonald's do it. And apparently, if you're a McDonald's franchisee, you can earn a lot of money, but then it's a massive investment. So apologies, I feel like I'm flitting around a bit. Yeah, I could have kept going for a bit. I was planning to do Windsor. I was working on doing Windsor. But to me, I would have got stuck after Windsor actually. And I know that because part of my role of looking after the Henley and Marlowe cards is that if any retailer orders any cards, I like to deliver them to them. So not online orders because that would be insane. But any retailers ordering, I go because it's very much a sales time, sort of chat about their business and see how I can support them. So yeah, after Windsor, I'd have been stuck. There's nowhere else really around here that I've got on my list to do. And also it takes time, like it takes time looking after the packs. So I sort of knew that I was either going to have to start employing lots of people in different towns to do different packs, or something else. And actually employing lots of people really didn't appeal to me. You know, I'm sat in my home office now. If I had to sort of manage what someone was doing up in Manchester and keep in touch with them, like it didn't feel right for me that I'd have to check what you're doing this week, what's on your list, have you done this yet? Like I didn't want that kind of relationship. So as I say, my mentor suggested franchising. So luckily, the International Franchise Show was on in London in April. So off I trotted to that. I think, by the way, for the record, like you probably definitely go to that, I would say. Like it's free. Obviously, your time is the only thing you need to spend and buying a train ticket. But I would say go to it if you can, because you can go and meet loads of brands who are franchising already and trying to franchise. But also they do lots of talks from people like HSBC are quite big advocates of franchising and the sort of finance behind it. Not that you need loads of finance behind it, depending on your business, but they did talks with Domino's and KFC about people who were franchisees. So I found it a really useful day out. So yeah, go to it and see what you learn really. But I think that the things that I learned that, let's just go through those quick, that yes, it's the reason that it's going to work for me is that my business, I can take it and replicate it in new locations. And I think there's a lot of people start out thinking, oh, I'll just have one business, but actually you work so hard for one business that if you can scale it, then obviously that's more revenue coming in for you. So for me, my business is completely dependent on location. You know, I'm just picking towns and small cities to go and do this in different places. So yeah, definitely it's going to work. And actually, I always thought that it was for massive companies, you know, McDonald's, KFC, Domino's, they're all massive fast food chains. I don't know why fast food like doing it. I suppose because again, they can take their recipes and just set the parameters of what you want to do. So it's almost like you're setting the rules out for your business to say this is how it works. But I'd heard also, like you mentioned, franchising to some people, and people are like, oh, you know, be careful. And actually, that's when I sort of realised that you need the right support around you. You can't do it on your own, which was lucky because then when I went to the franchising show, I met the lovely Steve, who is from a company called the Franchising Centre, which all they do is help businesses franchise themselves. So for me, I was like, great. Like he was the first person I spoke to at the franchising show. And I thought, this is fantastic. Like he understood my business and he wasn't trying to sell to me particularly. But he did say, I really think we could franchise your business, because I think it'd be pretty disingenuous if he thought my business wasn't franchisable to take me on, because that's going to be hard work for him. So it did take me till September to start working with him. Like I mulled it over a lot of, was this going to be the right way to go down? Because I suppose, like a lot of you know, it's scary when you're on your own, that you're sort of thinking, do I do this? And all of the things about it. But I can hand on heart say that like Steve has been amazing. I've even emailed his company to tell him I think he's been amazing. Every time I talk to him, he saves me time and saves me money. That, as I say, franchising's got this reputation of like, oh, well, you know, once people are signed up as franchisees, that's it. You can't get rid of them. Well, no, you can't, but you can put parameters in place to make your life a bit easier. It's knowing all the pitfalls, I think. And for me, Steve has been this supportive. He'll tell you all the pitfalls. Like I don't have to be a master in franchising. Like that's not what I'm about. What I want to know is, how do I franchise my business? That's what I want to be the master of. So I don't need to know all the rules and regs of franchising. And also, I think there's a misconception that you have to have property involved to do franchising. Like, you absolutely don't. You can. My business has no property involved in it, which is great actually, because the cost of coming into it is low, because you don't have to go and find a big space that you can turn into a restaurant, for example. So I would say just go in with an open mind. It really is about being able to replicate it in different locations. And you'll be amazed once you start looking at how many businesses out there are franchised models. Like, I don't know if anyone's heard of Mr. Sim's Sweet Shop, but we had one open up in Henley. That's a franchise. So it's, as I say, it's essentially setting out that blueprint for people, so that they can run it as their own business with your help. So things that I've learned. Oh, sorry, the other person I want to say thank you to as well is Irene, who you need a good legal framework behind you, because you're basically going to give all your secrets. I've spent hours working on my business, thinking over every last detail, so that when it comes to the franchising side of things, it's so much easier for the people who are going to be my franchisees, because I've worried about everything and the details, so that I can go, look, this is how we do it. This was what works. This is what I've tried, and it's been a success. So having someone like Irene is great, because she is pulling together the legal document that of everything, setting all the expectations. This is what's going to happen. This is what you can do. This is what I will provide. And I don't want to think negatively, but if things go wrong, you've got your legal agreement to fall back on. I mean, for me, the worst thing would be people taking my idea and running with it themselves. Like, that would, as in outside of my brand, that would not be good. If I put time and effort into nurturing them. But actually, the way I see it with a franchise is that, the Ace Places brand is going to be, it'll grow so much quicker, because we'll all be acting, when we keep launching more and more packs of cards, this Ace Places brand is going to become more and more well known. So the sort of strength in numbers, sort of safety numbers, really, that we can, be there together to learn from each other. And actually, as I say, I know I don't have all the answers, even not just about franchising, about my business. Like, I always think we can learn different things. So I hope that, I'm going to create this team, this pyramid of us, of or maybe not pyramid, that's probably not a good word, but certainly this collective of people, that we will be, having our own packs of cards, running our own businesses, and acing it, really, no pun intended, but acing it. So things I have learned after doing more research. For me now, I've got plans to launch. I've got 2 packs so far. Within the next 5 years, I'm hoping to have 50. That is because I can work with people to help them do their own packs of cards. But actually, I'm hoping that each franchisee does at least 3 packs with me, because then once I've sort of shared the knowledge for one, they should go on to earn more money and have more packs of cards. So that's my plan for them from a business point of view. Much quicker than, if I'm doing packs of cards myself, I can do 2 packs a year. I know that, I've done it. And maybe 3 at a push, but you need time to launch them. So actually, by working with franchisees, I think year 1 we're planning to do 3 packs, and by year 5 we're doing 8 packs. So you can grow faster. The motivated operators for me is massively important. I woke up at 5 a.m. yesterday and just started work at 7:30, just because I could. And because I'm that motivated by it, like, I love it. And for me, being an employee is fine. And I'm not saying that all employees aren't motivated, because that's absolutely not true. But for me, I want someone to feel like, these are my packs of cards, it's my business, and I'm so proud of it. And they will be their own businesses, their own entities, but they'll just be part of something bigger. So I'm hoping that for me, finding, and for any franchisee actually, well, franchisor, it's finding the right franchisees. Because you only get one shot. If you're going to do the Oxford pack, well, you only get a chance to do one Oxford pack, so you can't just pick the wrong people, basically. And that's why I think sometimes there's a misconception with franchising that you should just take anybody on. Well, actually, No, I don't agree with that. Not for my business anyway. Like they need to be the absolute right people who love where they live, love going to chat to people, because they are going to affect how successful their business is. So, yeah, a key one for me that. And as I said, I touched on this already. The increased brand presence is really important, that actually the more packs that launch, the more people will know the Ace Places brand and they'll know what to expect. Like at the moment, people pick up the cards, I've got to sit here and go, oh, it's just a pack of playing cards that say Henley on the back. There's quite a few towns do them. And it's like, no, there's so much more than that. It's a guide to the town primarily, where you find all these hidden gems and you get to live like a local. And after that, you've got this beautiful souvenir to take away with you in this lovely set of playing cards. And once people see the card more when they launch in Brighton, they'll go, oh, yeah, it's the Ace Places card. So I will get the brand out there quicker, hopefully. And not just in the UK, actually. We're looking at going abroad with the idea, because when you think about it, there's so many locations you could do. So it's definitely improving your brand presence a lot quicker. And then it's that local expertise. Like, as I say, I know Henley and Marlow. I don't know Windsor as well at all, which is why I haven't done it myself. And I think, picking franchisees, they should really love where they live. So if you're thinking of franchising your cafe or hairdressers, whatever it is, like you want people who love where they live. And actually, by sort of choosing those locals I think it's just going to bring a lot of love to things. Like, I think it's easy to see, you can see chains that do it actually when they roll themselves out and they're not franchised agreements, actually they're managed operations. You can see that they're just going through the motions and repeating what they do every time, and it gets quite boring. Whereas for me, these are franchisees, they're going to just be so passionate, I hope, that it's not, yes, there's formulas they'll follow, but it's not just the same old, like we can do different things for different places. So and they have that knowledge that I don't. If we're going to do Oxford, I only go to Oxford probably once every couple of years. So it's knowing those things that will bring more to the table, I hope. Reduced operational burden. So yeah, like I don't have to take on lots of employees. I think I've got a plan where, when I was sat down working through my numbers with Steve, which, by the way, my God, we did this whole table of numbers that basically figures out how much do I earn as the franchisor and how much does the franchisee earn to get to this. And it's quite a complicated table. And I probably could have done it myself. It would have took me 6 months. And I think we thrashed it out in about 2 weeks. Because, as I say, the franchising centre are there. And by the way, there's other companies besides the franchising centre. I'm not just plugging them. It's just this is the only one I have experience of. So go and have a look at other companies that help you franchise. There's a smaller operation, but very good, called Stacey McCann as well. I've sat in on a few of her webinars. And I know that she's won a small business award for hers as well. So as I say, there are other people, but I think the knowledge they bring for you is that they're used to franchising businesses. So as I say, you don't have to be the expert in it, but you need someone who is, to sort of act as that support for you. So yeah, it's figuring out, exactly what everyone's going to earn, but then, and how you're going to earn that money as well. Actually, there's other opportunities. So you might just think, usually with franchising, franchisees will pay an upfront fee, then they will pay a monthly fee, and sometimes it'll be a percentage of profit as well. But it doesn't have to be like, that's the thing I've learned, is that everything's not set in stone. And I think sometimes, especially as small businesses, which I'm guessing a lot of you are, like, I think we're often told this is how you do it and there's no other way. And it really annoys me, actually. Like, you don't have to follow any suit. Sorry, no pun intended. I mean, I spend my life with playing cards. I now use a lot of playing card puns. But it's, do what feels right for you. And actually, with my franchising agreement, it's going to be a small fee to buy in. It's only going to be a monthly fee on certain aspects. So if they don't earn any for that month, they won't be paying anything for it. And there's no percentage of profit either. So it's just about finding a structure that works for you, is what I'm saying in a very long way. The revenue growth, as I said, I've sort of touched on this in the one above, this sort of massive spreadsheet of you have to know your numbers. And as someone who is marketing focused, like sometimes the numbers can be tough going, but you have to appreciate where your money's going to come from. And actually, for me, what I've been more worried about is the franchisees, especially. I don't want to overpromise anything. The sort of horror story of a franchise and actually is where people have said, "Oh, you can earn £1 million for being a franchisee," and then they can't or they haven't. And I don't want to worry you, but if you overpromise, you can get sued. So let's hope none of us are sat here saying that that's happened to them in a few years' time. And I think that's why, for me, I've deliberately kept my numbers very low. So I'm not saying, look, you've got to sell like 1,000 packs of cards a month. I think my numbers are down at 100 or 200 packs of cards a month, which is really low, and should be very obtainable, based on my numbers that I've done so far. So just, yeah, as I say, I just keep it real, people. Like, don't be promising the earth and then, because no one wants to be disappointed either. Like, as I say, I'd rather that my franchisees were smashing it out the park and they were earning loads more money than they thought they would. Like, that's a better position to be in, because the way I see it, the more money they're earning, it means the more money I'll be earning as well, because as I say, the sort of the model that I've built. Oh, and by the way, if you want me to share this, my sort of model of where I've got to at the end, please let me know. More than happy to do that. So, but essentially, as I say, I'm not teaching you to suck eggs, but I'm sure every one of you must have put in so much effort into your business, like me, where you overthink every last detail of it, that you've had proven success with one or maybe even two. So actually, rather than you trying to run all the different operations yourself, you're sort of just letting it replicate itself with other people. But they also, as I say, they probably bring more stuff to the table. Like, I have to say, I haven't embraced TikTok. I just feel like I've got enough going on in my life without opening that particular door. But if one of my franchisees absolutely loves TikTok and wants to do some videos, well, great. Like, that's fantastic. Like, this isn't about, I think I've spoken to people who are franchisees and they've said the worst thing for them sometimes is that you don't feel heard by the franchisor. So I think it's definitely, you've got to see it as a partnership. And that, you know, if you're just going to tell them what to do all the time, that's pretty boring for them. Whereas actually, if you're going to take stuff on board and actually learn from it and grow with it, then, as I say, like, I sort of feel like it's a massive opportunity for the brand, that you've got all these different people coming in, hopefully with different skill sets to me and different strengths. So yes, hopefully, you know, everything works better because we're a team. And then, yeah, the enhanced brand value. So I'm just going to check my notes one sec. No, I've not missed anything. The brand value is the fact that now I'll be able to print more cards together. You know, instead of just printing one pack at a time, we can print 3 or 4 packs. It'll make things cheaper for everybody. So, you know, franchisees get to make more money as well. So, like, you know, there's economies of scale. If you have a cafe, you can do deals with local suppliers so that you can buy more of their product. So things should be cheaper. So, and I think there's a book out there called It's Easy to Grow 10 Times as Opposed to 2 Times, which is on my list to read. I've only listened to the short summary of it, but basically sort of saying to you, it's easier to grow 10 times bigger than it is 2 times bigger. And I think it's things like this that come into play of the finding out, you know, buying in bulk. Sorry, went off on a bit of a drift there. So, useful resources, I would say the E-Myth is great. It was recommended to me because it talks about franchising, but actually I would say any business should listen to this. So basically it's taking the concept of, if you were to franchise your business, what would it look like? So it's making rules for your business, basically. So even if you don't want to franchise, you should have an operations manual detailed. You can listen to it on audiobook. I listened to it on Spotify and it was free. It's a really good book, but you can read it as well if you prefer reading. And Profitable Partnerships is all about franchising. So it's all about looking at it from the viewpoint of your franchisees, of, you know, what happens if they start thinking, well, I could do this on my own. And it's making sure that people feel like being a part of something is worth it rather than just being on your own. And so, yeah, it's both are really good books. I couldn't find Profitable Partnerships as an ebook, so I am actually having to physically read it, which is tough going for me because I find it much easier to listen to things, but still worth it. And one that I should have included and didn't actually is a book called The Magic of Thinking Big, which I've only just finished listening to, and I actually want to go and listen to it all again. Because I think it really does, when you're franchising and looking at going out across more locations, I think having that larger mindset is really, really important actually, because for me at the moment, I can sit here going, yes, I've got 2 packs of cards, but actually in my head, I'm like, yeah, and I'm going to have 50 in 5 years. And that's what I can see happening. So there's no point going, yes, but I've only got 2 at the moment. Like, no, there's the 50 coming. And it just, I think it makes you think bigger. One thing that I didn't mention earlier, actually, that Steve from the Franchising Centre mentioned to me on the very first meeting was to go after the government startup loan. So if you're quite a new business, you can get the government startup loan. If you've been trading less than 3 years, you can borrow up to 25 grand. I've just borrowed it because actually what I was finding is there is cost to setting up franchise. It's not like thousands and thousands of pounds like sometimes people think it is. And as I say, outsiders will have to share the cost of what it's cost me so far. But for me, it's been useful because I now have that money from the government set aside so that anything franchising related comes out of that pot of money. Because I only have 2 packs of cards at the moment. They can't sustain things like trademarks and legal agreements and the franchising centres fees because that's not what they were designed for. So actually it makes my life a lot simpler where Henley and Marlowe effectively pay me my wages and I work on them, and money comes in, and then anything franchising to help grow the business comes out of this separate pot of money. So and I know at the moment there's a particular push with they want women to apply for this more because apparently I didn't know this until I was halfway through the process, but apparently women are more scared to apply for this. So please, ladies out there, go for it. And you do have to pay it back. It is a loan, but it's a 6% interest rate at the moment, and you have 5 years to pay it back, depending on what is agreed. But I think they give you up to 5 years. So I think I can't tell you not to be hesitant about borrowing money. You're still borrowing money, but it's unsecured, so it's not like they're going to come and take your car or your house. If you don't pay. And actually, I think it's government backed in the fact that private equity lends it to you. And if you defaulted on it, the government would pay it. So if you do run off to Mexico, you'll be costing the UK government money, I think. But yeah, don't do that. So yeah, it's as I say, like I feel like I don't have all the answers. But I don't think any of us ever will on anything. And as I say, like this isn't about me being an expert in franchising because I can just tell you my franchising journey. And I would just say surround yourself with good people, as I say, that people who can help you out. Because there is a lot to think about. And as I say, you put in so much time and effort into growing this business. It's your baby. To try and hand it over to someone else, I get it, it's scary. And I'm more than happy if anyone wants to link in with me, if anyone wants to do a separate like WhatsApp group after this, a sort of support network, more than happy to do that. But yeah, I think it's just, as I say, it's a journey, and it would be great to hear from other people and where you are at on your journey as well. And if you have any advice for me, I'm more than open to that as well. So thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Emma. That was an excellent presentation. And also, I think we'd all love to know how you get on with that goal of 50 cards in the next 5 years. So do keep us
posted. To be honest, it sounds ambitious.
It's great. Reach for the stars. Always my motto. That was wonderful. We've got a few questions come in, so I'll dive into those. But if anybody's got some more, do put them in the chat as we go, and we will get to those. So the first question: do your franchisees have to get information about the town, get them to you, and you produce the cards? How do you check the quality of information on the cards and keep them up to date?
So just ask me the first bit again. I'll answer it in stages, I think.
No problem. It's a big one. Do your franchisees have to get the information about the town to you for you to produce the cards?
So there's rules in place, like because the cards are aimed at tourists, I will say, look, you can have restaurants, cafes. You've got to be able to go and visit it as a tourist. So it could be a museum, thing to do. It could be a calendar event. So obviously calendar events are only on usually once a year. Or it could be a weekly market, say, but it's got to be something that at some point a visitor could go to. So it can't be private schools, which someone asked about in Henley. Service-led businesses don't often lend themselves well. So solicitors, accountants, I'll have them in the pack, but they have to sponsor landmark cards. Like Henley Bridge is a beautiful Grade 1 listed bridge. It's sponsored by a local company who wouldn't qualify for a card. So they'll have those rules in place, but it will all be about the franchisees building that relationship. I won't meet their sponsors, their card sponsors. They will be, well, maybe for the first few I will, but certainly it will be their relationship. And so it'll be down to them to sort of go and find them. And then, yeah, I have a designer. They're welcome to find their own designer, but yeah, all designs will be approved by me just because I want to check that everything's staying on brand, really. Like there's a bigger picture. It's easy to go off on a tangent, I think, as often I do. But yeah, it's very much their business. I'm just here to say, look, the cards work because they're aimed at tourists. Even though locals feel very, very proud of them and buy a lot of them, if it was just a sort of, a card with an accountant on it in the nicest possible way, it's not very exciting for people. You can't really do anything with that. So that's the idea behind them anyway.
Fabulous. I'm just imagining as well. I bet it's so much fun going out and visiting all these places and thinking this could be on the card, this could be on the card. Like you'd really get to know the town, wouldn't you?
You do, but actually, I think really it's better if you know the town already. Like for me, I wrote down the list for the Henley cards I kept coming back to it because you keep remembering hidden gems. But like, for example, there's just people in it. I'm just trying to find one of the cards now so Big Duck Lilies, I always use her as an example. This is a 15-foot duck that floats up and down the River Thames and raises money for Macmillan Cancer. So it's a charity card. But you would only find Lily on Instagram. That's it. She's not got a TripAdvisor presence. And for me, like when everyone sees that duck, my God, does it make you smile? Because it's a 15-foot inflatable duck. Like what's not to love? And it's about those hidden gems that make Henley unique. And sometimes Lily's got like a top hat on and whatever is going on in the world. She had a face mask on when it was COVID. So Tim, who looks after Lily, does a great job with her, but you'd never find her. And I always say the cards are great to live like a local because you get to find these hidden gems. So that's why you could do with some insider knowledge of things before you start on the cards rather than just go to, like I was trying to do Windsor without really knowing it. And yes, people give me loads of information, but I think it really helps if you know and love the place. So
yeah, definitely. Someone's just asked there, Emma, if you could you pop back to the slide with the two books on just so people could.
yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and the other one is definitely The Magic of Thinking Big. Like, I don't know why I didn't put that one in there because I literally finished listening to it and went, I'm going to listen to it again because it's really good. But the E-Myth book's really good as well. But as I say, it makes you simplify your business in terms of, so it's great if you're actually going to outsource part of your business because if you've written your operations manual and you say, this is how we do social media, if ever you outsource your social media, well, you've got the chapter on it to give to somebody. So it's not primarily about franchising your business, but it's a great place to start because essentially you then could. So yeah, it's definitely worth a listen or a read if you like reading.
Wow. The other part of that question was, how do you check the quality of the information and keep them up to date?
Well, because like I know, for example, one of the places in Henley's just changed its address. So because I'm living here, I know what's going on. Like you have to keep up to date with what's going on in the town. So the cards aren't about breaking news. Like I'm not going to be treading on anybody's toes about stop press. Like it looks like Henley's just about to start flooding, for example, because of all the rain we've had. They've opened the floodgates further up the river. It's about to start flooding. I'm not going to report that on the cards social media because it's not for me. It's not, they're not about breaking news. They're just about celebrating the best of the town. And likewise, they're not about negativity. They're like one of the values of the cards is joy. So at the moment, Thames Water are getting an absolute kicking about the state of what goes into the rivers. Like the cards won't engage in that because it's not their place. So I think it's knowing what the cards are about, and it's about celebrating community and positive things. And unfortunately, as much as I would like to get involved in the whole Thames Water stuff, like I can't. So yeah, it's a true celebration of positivity, and I think that's sort of the reason I had the idea 2 years ago was we just come out. I think it was August 22, so we were a year out of lockdowns. And I was just thinking, like, it's just so, everything's just quite negative. And actually, these cards are just, as I say, pure joy, that it's about celebrating everything that's great. So let's just leave negativity to like the Daily Mail and everyone else who wants to moan. But there's so much positive out there, and I think we should really embrace it.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that philosophy. I think we could all be a bit more positive. Thank you for that. What advice do you have on operational guidelines for your franchisees?
So it really is about this is the next part of my journey, is writing a massive ops manual. Now I have had some advice from, I've got a colleague, person I've met through networking who is a franchisor, and they're using some software. So you can write your operations manual and have it all online. I think back in the day, you'd be like, oh, you're a franchisee. Here's your massive folder of stuff to read through. And obviously, we don't need to do that now. It can all be online. Mine will never be printed because that's the day and age we're in. Like, why would you print a massive folder of information when actually you can put it all online? So I will gladly share that software because I am definitely going to use some of it. But it just means that it's really easy. If they want to check up on, all right, so what do I do about going to find sponsors? They can go and read that section, and just make it really easy for people. But essentially, you're going to have to do some work, and this is the bit that frightens me next. I think I'm going to have to sort of lock myself in a room for 2 days, is getting everything out of your head that you take for granted with your business and getting it on paper. But to be fair, that's what the E-Myth says as well. Like, there's no good it all being up here. I mean, it'd be fine if I was sticking with my 2 packs of cards and maybe doing Windsor myself, fine, it can all stay up here. But you're involving other people and you want them to do well. So everything that you take for granted as I just do automatically is going to have to be written down. And I think that's why, if it's somewhere that's accessible online, that only franchisees have access to, by the way, it's not like on your website. But it just means that they can then go and check, and you can update it anytime you like. Like if you suddenly change your mind on something or you realize you've forgotten something, it's not like you've had to do that scary, let's send it all to print. So I will gladly share that software once I've got it there. But I know there's a few out there where they are literally, it's software just for operations manuals for businesses and franchising.
Amazing.
I know, very niche, but there we go. Well, I suppose it shows how big it is. So.
Yeah, very true. A follow-on question from that one. Are you quite specific in how to do this, how to do the other? For example, I know McDonald's are quite specific in how they like things to be done. Or do you take a bit more of a broader approach that they can there's certain things they have to do a certain way, but other things they can kind of run with?
Yeah, being honest, I'm not entirely sure yet. Like I know I've got some non-negotiables of so for example, my first few franchisees, probably all of them actually, to be fair, I'll always want to know which businesses are you going to go after before you go after them? Because it'd be nothing worse than them going, oh, I've got this solicitor signed up for their own card. And I'll be like, no, they can't have their own card because they're a service-led business. And, a tourist, if you need a solicitor on a weekend away, your weekends took a dark turn. So yes, I think there'll always be sort of rules like that in place. So I'll, saying like before you go after them, let's talk through your list. And it's not about me going, no, you can't have a solicitors. I'm going, look, this is why solicitors shouldn't have a card, because they're not what tourists want to visit when they come to Henley. But if they want to sponsor the local, say there's I don't know, a statue or something, or a bridge or a monument that usually owned by the council, to be fair, and the council haven't got money to sponsor these things, that, they can sponsor it. I mean, in Windsor, for example, there's like this blue post box that's like a mysterious thing of why there's a blue post box. Someone could sponsor that. It's a way of them being in the cards. But yeah, I think there will be certain things that I'm very like, look, you can't deviate from this because I've put so much thought into it and I know it works. Like I'm doing it for your benefit. I'm not doing it just to be bossy. But then on the other hand, I've had sort of personality profiling where rules for me are fine. I'll stick to them if they make sense. But if someone came up with a better way to do something that was quicker, well, yeah, I'm going to, let's try it. So it's, I don't think I will be as prescriptive as McDonald's. I hope not. Just because and that's not me dissing McDonald's, like it's mega, like one of the biggest companies in the world. Whatever you think of their ethics and the fast food diet stuff, whatever, it's a great concept. People love it. So they have to, if you went in and had a different Big Mac, you'd be very upset. So for me, it's about keeping your brand values and making sure that if a person buys one pack and then they buy a different pack in another town, well, they still know what they're getting, that you're not moving too far away from your concept. So yeah, it's definitely not rules for rules' sake. The rules have got to be there to protect the brand, basically.
So our legal questions come in. So
Oh.
is it your responsibility to make sure the franchisee is doing things by legal rules, or does it come back to you?
Ooh, that is a good question. I don't know, being honest. Like, I'm not gonna pretend I've got the answers when I don't. I mean, I suppose with playing cards, like, I'm not sure what they could be doing that was illegal with them. Like, all right, if they were, I suppose they could organize, because one of the things they'll be able to do is organize events. So let's say they've organized an illegal poker night where they're playing for money in a place that shouldn't be playing for money. I don't know. I'll look into it. I'm guessing it would be them because it's their business. Like, unless it's put in my operations manual, you should run a poker night with money involved, then yes, that will come back on me. But I'm sure if they're doing it, it's their business. So I would hazard a guess it's them. But as I say, I will check it out with Irene and see what she says, because I can't, this is the thing, like, I'm not controlling people, they're not employees. And I know that you don't control employees either, I'm not that bossy, but it's I'm not responsible for them, I suppose, either. So yeah, let's hope no one's doing anything illegal. But I think there's things in your agreement that can, so if I think, so say one of the things you have to consider is, let's say something terrible happens where one of your franchisees gets done for murder. Let's say you can cut them loose, like you can have a clause in your agreement that says, if you do something that brings the brand into disrepute, like murdering somebody, that's the contract null and void. Because you don't, and I'm really, really praying that doesn't come up as an issue, but you have to be prepared for things like that could happen. So yeah, you can definitely protect yourself. If your if your franchisees do illegal things, you have a certain level of protection that, as I say, if any of them murder anyone, my God, like, oh, that's stressful.
Well, let's hope that never happens, I'm sure. What are the pitfalls or tips you would say to any new company looking to franchise? Are there any big no-nos you would advise against?
So one pitfall I learned quite early on, which is why you need someone good to help advise you, is, let's say I sell the Oxford franchise to somebody, and then suddenly something happens where they fall into a coma and they can't do the Oxford pack. You can have parameters written into it to say, right, if you don't launch your cards within 12 months of signing your agreement, we can take the franchise back. Because otherwise, I could be in a situation where I've sold the Oxford franchise, my poor franchisee is in a coma, but we can't launch an Oxford pack. I can't resell it to anybody either. And I know that was from someone who did a lot of franchising. That was one of his first franchise. He did, and that was one of the things he didn't write into his contract, of like, once you've sold an area, you need to be able to take it back if something happens, if they're just not doing what you set out to do. So look, don't get me wrong, you're not just going to take it back for fun. There's got to be, something's not working, as I say, their life situation's changed. But definitely look into that, make sure you're protected, because otherwise people will be like, well, why have you done all the places around Oxford and never done Oxford? It seems so obvious. So you might have taken the money as the initial deposit, but you're not earning any because they've not launched anything. So that would definitely be a massive tip. But as I say, like, for me, it's been invaluable, like, surrounding myself with the franchising centre. Like, we had a chat meeting yesterday, and the knowledge they can impart is so good. But actually, it's just good to have someone to understand your business as well. Like, I think for me, it's understanding, like, if they get what I'm trying to do as a business, then it's just, you can really grow together, but they can just really help you out of going, look, watch out for this, don't do this. They, as I say, that's all they do is franchise companies. So I sort of figured they're a great place to start, because there are pitfalls to fall into. And I think that's why the word franchises, I was speaking to someone in my Marlowe pack is actually a franchisee. I was speaking to her about it. And she said franchises get a bad rep in the UK compared to the US. Like US love them because actually there's there's a lot more higher success rate than if you just start a business on your own. So if you were going to franchise a cafe, if you open a cafe on your own, there's a higher chance it will fail. But if you've got a proven method of, this is my cafe, it does great milkshakes and toasties or whatever, there's a much higher chance of it working because you've sort of proven the business model. And as I say, like I feel like my 2 packs are like the guinea pig packs, if you like, now, because I can test stuff on them and see what works and what doesn't. So you can just sort of say to franchisees, look, I know this works. I know it works. I've had it work on 2 different packs. So it's sort of that, I think being a franchisee, you've got it good. Like all the things that I worried about, like what should my domain be? I spent hours thinking about that. And now they're going, yeah, it's just aceplaces.co.uk. So you can just, and it also, as I say, like there is that feeling of that partnership feeling, like it's definitely not, I've been referring to them in my documents as Ace Places partners. I just don't like the word franchisees. Like, as I say, I think it's sometimes, there's a lot of things going around at the moment about pyramid schemes. And I'm like, yeah, definitely not a pyramid scheme. So yeah, I think franchisees is just a bit of we need a new word, people, but what that word is, I don't know. So that's why I say partners, because I just think that's what they are. They're, very much part of the team, part of the family. So yeah.
Lovely. What are any key traits that you think a business should have to be able to be franchisable?
It really is the location thing, I think. Like if you can replicate it in a different location, but do exactly the same thing in a different location, that's what franchising is. And for me, when I first started, actually, people were like, oh, well, you're going to have to let them buy, say, a county. So you might buy Cornwall and then they will choose the packs of cards that they are going to do. And I just said no straight away. I said, no, I'm selling my franchises as towns and places. Like I don't want someone buying Berkshire and doing Slough. Like no offense to Slough, but I don't think it's right at the moment. I don't think there's enough tourists there. So if I sold Berkshire as the whole county, well, people could just do as many as they wanted. And that's usually how franchisees work. They buy an area. And I just said, no, I'm not doing it. Like I said before, I don't let people push you around too much. And I just said, no, it's town. So if someone wants to come to you and say, I want to do Windsor in Berkshire, great. I want to do Newbury, great, fine. I'll keep selling them the franchise like that. But I don't want to lose that control because I want the brand to be about places that people go on weekends away. So if I said I was going to Harrogate, you'd be like, oh, that's meant to be lovely there. Great, they're on the list for a pack of cards. Whereas, as I say, if I said I was going to Slough, I think you'd be like, oh, you're visiting family. Like it's not the same. It's not got the same romantic view, I suppose. I don't want to get myself tied up in knots there, but as I say, just don't let people sort of tell you how franchises work because you can make them work however you want. And by the way, it wasn't Steve that told me that from the franchising centre. It was just other people saying, well, that's how franchises work. So that's how they've got to work. And, people also said I couldn't do it because there was no property involved. Well, most of the time, these people giving you advice, like, oh, have you franchised many businesses of your own? Oh, no, you haven't. Right, great. So thanks for that. It's people have heard a lot of the negative stuff about franchising, like to impart that wisdom with you. But as I say, if they've not franchised a business themselves, well, as I say, it's all a big source of learning. So yeah,
definitely. Where do you find people to partner with?
At the moment, people have been coming to me because they've seen the cards and they go, I want to do this for my place. So in the new year is when I'm going to really start going for people to sort of target people in specific places. But I think this is why most people use a company like the Franchising Centre actually, is they want help with the recruiting side of it. I actually think it'll be the easier part for me because I just have a feel, well, who knows, it might be the really hardest part, but because I've got people coming to me at the moment, I sort of think I can see already in my mind the types of people it will be good for. So it could be like women going back into work after maternity leave who want something of their own. It could be people who already have websites dedicated to the towns that they live in. Like we all know plenty of like small websites in our towns that promote the best of what's going on in that area, events and stuff. They'd be ideal because they already know all the businesses. And I think if you've got that head start, but you can find it's really, really depends on your business. Like you can go to the franchising show if you want. If you want to find franchisees, go and have a stall there and you'll find people there. But for me, as I say, I'm more interested in people who love where they live rather than people who are desperate to be a franchisee. Because some people just look at, I want to be a franchisee. Like they're not my people, actually. I want people who are into sort of sales and marketing and that kind of thing, really. So me going to the franchising show won't work.
Yeah, but I feel for your business especially, it's you're not really looking people who maybe they've not even thought about having a business. They
Yeah,
just look at
exactly.
things.
Exactly. You get people who look at the cards and go, oh my God, I love them so much. These would work great in my town. I want to do them. But yeah, I hope, as I say, for some franchisees don't care who some franchisors don't care who their franchisees are because you can just sell it and it goes with it. For me, this is way too personal. Like this is the brand. And as I say, my brand's really small at the moment, but this is the brand that's going to grow. And I want all of my franchisees to be people like you can do a thing you can do as many times as you like, to be honest, but once a year we'll do a big meetup. I mean, it's not going to be a very big meetup in year one, but anyway, we'll do a meetup with all your franchisees and you get to sit around a table. Well, these have got to be people that I get on with, and they're not going to be my best friends. But I'm thinking, well, if I don't like my franchisees, how are they going to go and get 54 sponsors? Like, you've got to have a likability factor. If you're just quite annoying or aggressive, people aren't going to like that. So for me, as I say, I think this is one of the best things about being self-employed is you choose who you work with. Like all your suppliers, you get to choose. So well, you do most of the time. And I think it should be no different with franchisees. Like create people that, if you open a branch of your business in Leeds and you're like, oh God, I've got to go and see that franchisee in Leeds. Like, that's not good. Like this is the person representing your business. So choose wisely, I would say. And as I say, make sure your expectations are aligned and that as I say, like you think they're the right people for the job, because the downside of franchising is you can't just sack them like employees. If they're underperforming, you can have parameters set in place to say, look, you've not sold enough packs of cards or whatever. But you don't really want to get to that situation. So as I say, it's really doing your homework and making sure that you're both aligned with each other and, really care about what you're doing. For me, it really is that you've got to be motivated to want to do it. So if you sort of come into me and go, oh, I've not sold many packs of cards this month, I'll be like, great, let's talk through some ideas about how you can. But yeah, you've got to be motivated to want to do it. As I say, you don't have to wake up at 5 a.m. every day, which I don't, but it helps that you've got that love for and that passion.
Definitely. Does a business need to have a minimum turnover before considering franchise model, in your opinion?
Oh, no. Other conflicting information I was given was someone said to me, you've got to wait at least 3 years and have 3 years worth of trading figures to be able to franchise. And then I spoke to other people and sort of ran it by Steve when I met him, and he said, "Oh no, you can franchise anytime you like, but just be honest with people." So, I say I launched last March, so I don't have 3 years worth of trading figures, but I'll be really honest with you and say, this is how many packs of cards I've sold, this is how much money I've made from it. And so I don't think you just need to be able to prove that what you've done is working. So, you don't have to say you've made £1 million from your first business, because I certainly haven't. But I've done it now. Perhaps if I'd have just done it in one town, it might have been a bit shaky. But for the fact that I did exactly the same thing in a second town in the same year and it worked, you just need to have proof that it is working. But as I say, like in a few years' time, the nice thing is for me is at the moment now I'm starting to treat myself a bit like I'm a franchisee. So what would I think if I was a franchisee? Because I have my own packs and I'll always be a couple of years ahead of them, because I'm in year 3 probably by the time they start. So it's just having that level of empathy for it, really, that you're always thinking about how does it affect them and the sort of decisions you make. And I think Profitable Partnerships talks about that a lot as well, actually, of it's easy to see how communications can break down, because if you're not communicating why you've made a particular decision, And also, if you ask your franchisees for their opinion on stuff and then don't follow it, things can break down. As you know, like people don't, you're going to ask for someone's opinion, you've at least got to show willing that you listen to it. So, but no, I don't think, you just need to be able to prove that one business is working at the moment. But if I'd have waited 3 years to do this, I think it would be too late. Like, I think, like, just go with it and just be honest, which, you know, I would always recommend you're honest anyway. There's no point in lying. But yeah, just be open, honest, and go for it.
Thank you. What advice would you have for someone who is hesitant about franchising but keen to start?
I'd just say have a chat with different people. Like, as I say, you can. I am a big fan of the franchising centre, but there are other companies out there. So go and have a chat with them, because from what I can gather, like, I don't think there's much in it for them to help you franchise your business if they didn't think it was franchisable. Like, all that's going to happen in the end is you're going to be disappointed. So I just go and have a chat with people who are used to dealing with franchise businesses, because, you know, they'll tell you the pitfalls and where it, you know, that you potentially might fall down. But if you go on the International Business Franchise Show website, I think it shows you all the people that exhibit there. So there's definitely a couple there who are businesses that just help you franchise. And as I say, there's another person called Stacey McCann who is down here in Berkshire somewhere. She's definitely worth a chat with, because she is very knowledgeable, and she's trying to make it easier for smaller businesses to just franchise themselves. And a lot of people, as I say, they see their only way to get bigger is to just keep employing people, and it's difficult. You know, you're looking at when you've got to have lots of people. If it is a cafe, I know I keep using the cafe as an example, but, you know, a cafe is not just one person, that's then more people to be employed. So, and suddenly if that manager leaves, it's tricky, you know. So it's as I say, I just think just do some research on it. And as I say, I'm happy to chat more on LinkedIn afterwards and stuff. So no problem at all.
We are running out of time, but another question is just about, have you got any tips on how you sell your product that you could share?
Sell my product to who though? So, like, to get people to my sponsors, or to people buying the cards?
Sonia, if you'd like to let us know in the chat which preference you'd have. But maybe if you start with talking us through how you would do it for sponsors.
And it can be, so one thing I didn't mention, actually, I've been doing a sales skills course, which has been free through the Berkshire Growth Hub. So it doesn't really matter where you are in the country, because from what I can gather, each county or area has its own little growth hub. Been amazing. I knew nothing about this until I became self-employed, and I've actually just done a really nice LinkedIn post to thank them, because they're great. And actually, one thing I didn't touch on, as part of the government loan, you get some free mentoring as well. So at the moment, I now have 2 different mentors as well as my original one. So I'm going to not have 3 forever, because that's quite a lot. But the second one, who I've just started with, is through the Berkshire Growth Hub, but because of my loan, I found out about her. So it's called the High Growth Program. And it's really good from what I can gather from my first session. It just makes you think differently. So I would say go and have, like, if there's any free stuff out there, take the free mentoring, because I just think people will look at things that you haven't considered. But as I say, I'm at the risk at the moment of having too much going on. I'm trying to dial it back a bit. But in terms of selling to the sponsors, it can be really simple. Like, I'm happy to share after this, I launched the idea for my business on Henley Community Matters Facebook page. I've actually posted on it, the actual post on LinkedIn a couple of weeks ago. Like, it took me an hour to write this post, because what I wanted to do is get people to come to me instead of me knocking on 54 doors. I was working full time, I didn't have time for that. I just suddenly came up with the idea to do some sort of inbound sales, where I said, look, we had some designs mocked up of the cards, which you look at them now, they're nowhere near as good as what we ended up with, and put them on Facebook and just said, I'm thinking about doing a pack of cards. It's going to celebrate the best of Henley. Can you just tag some businesses in it that you think should have cards? Now, I already had my list of cards, so I was like, actually, I hope you tag all the people that I've thought of. And people did tag a few more that I hadn't thought of, actually, which was great. But by the end of that day, I had 7 businesses who wanted to sponsor cards, and 2 of them were big people. Like, 2 of them was Henley, one was Henley Festival, which is massive, and the Henley Bee Wine Festival. So I was like, this is when I knew it was a goer. And I think in terms of selling, I'm still on this sales skills course, by the way, which I would recommend. It's sort of 15 weeks, 4 hours a week. I prefer doing inbound sales where you sort of put something out there and they come to you rather than phoning them up or emailing them. I mean, you do have to do some of that. And actually, what I would do more of now is I would go and knock on more doors physically because I've got the time now. I don't work full time. Well, I still don't feel like I've got much more time, but it's a much better way to face-to-face selling. If you can build a rapport with people, it's so much easier than sending them a DM on Instagram or whatever, but it does still work. So it's just the thing is, the cards appeal to the business's egos basically because you're saying, look, this is the best of your town. Do you want to be in it? Like I'm offering you a space in it. And invariably they do. Like I charge more for the royals because I quickly thought people are going to want to be a royal. Like if I was approached, I'd want to be a royal. So I charge more for them. And lo and behold, they're the ones that go first. So yeah, I think it's just knowing your product, know your benefits of it, and don't be afraid to sort of talk about them either. But if you can create that fear of missing out, then that's been quite useful for me but most of the time, as I say, even though it's a new concept, the businesses have actually been pretty quick to catch on to it because they're like, oh, this is great. And I'm not charging a lot per card. Like it's no more than an advert in a newspaper or a magazine, like a local magazine. And actually, I say like you get so much more for it. Like you're in the cards for a year. And actually, like the local newspaper, yeah, you might get 3 weeks worth of ads out of it. But after that, who really flicks through the local newspaper to see who's advertised for the week? Nobody, unless you're psychotic. Whereas the cards, I literally see people get them and they will go through them one at a time, see who's in there, like their tarot cards. I say, like, that's the power of them. People go, the locals are going, oh, there's so and so. Oh, Big Duck Lily's got a card. People can see they're really excited about stuff being in there. So no one goes through local magazines to see who's advertised. So, but that's essentially what the cards are. They're a very nice advert for that business, not a logo of that business, which everyone wants their logo on the card. And you've got to try and dial that back a bit because otherwise it's just a business card. But yeah, it's about creating a product for people that's beautiful, and hopefully we've done that. So
Fabulous. Oh, thank you so much, Emma. I'm so sorry to cut things short, but we have run out of time today. I'm sure if people want to get in touch with you, they can do so.
Yep, sorry, put the details back on there. Sorry that my face is glowing. It's gone very dark here in Berkshire, so now my little desk light is like, oh, I want
So thank you all to everyone for joining today. I hope you enjoyed the session, and I hope to see you all again soon at 11 a.m. for our next webinar. Take care.
Thank you.